Every day, millions of Americans bite into an apple without thinking twice, unaware that this simple fruit holds the secrets of power, survival, and expansion that shaped the United States. From colonial settlers relying on cider for safety and sustenance, to Johnny Appleseed strategically planting orchards that would define communities and claim land, the apple quietly influenced who thrived, who moved west, and even who was pushed aside. Forests were cleared, ecosystems changed, and entire ways of life were erased. Yet today it sits on our tables as a symbol of comfort and tradition. In this documentary, we will uncover the hidden history behind every orchard, every bite, and every seed, revealing how the apple didn't just feed America, it helped build it in ways most people will never realize. Long before apples appeared in American orchards, they thrived in the wild forests of Central Asia, near modern-day Kazakhstan, where dense trees produced hundreds of resilient, flavorful varieties unknown to the world. Carried by animals and early humans across valleys and rivers, these seeds slowly traveled, laying the foundation for the fruit we know today. Over centuries, apples moved along trade routes and empires, eventually reaching Europe through the Silk Road, not merely as food, but as symbols of survival, prosperity, and culture. Their journey was shaped by curiosity, commerce, and the relentless human desire to cultivate and preserve, connecting distant lands and civilizations, and quietly preparing a path that would one day carry them across the Atlantic to the New World, where their story would continue to transform an entire continent. After centuries of travel from Central Asia, apples found a new home in Europe, where they became symbols of civilization, culture, and survival. The Romans cultivated orchards, developed grafting techniques, and stored apples for winter, transforming a simple fruit into a vital resource for sustenance, trade, and prestige, while appearing in gardens, literature, and art as a mark of refinement. As empires declined, medieval monks preserved rare varieties within monastery orchards, creating living libraries of genetic diversity that survived wars, famine, and disease. Apples were not only eaten, but also fermented into cider, a daily staple that provided hydration, nutrition, and social connection, forming the backbone of European communities. By the late Middle Ages, apples were intertwined with folklore, festivals, and identity. And when European settlers crossed the Atlantic, they carried not just seeds, but centuries of knowledge, cultivation techniques, and cultural significance, laying the foundation for the fruit that would one day shape the New World. When European settlers crossed the Atlantic to the New World, they brought with them more than tools, weapons, and crops. They carried apple seeds, saplings, and centuries of cultivation knowledge. These seeds were not just plants. They were instruments of survival, economy, and claim. In the harsh and unpredictable environment of colonial America, apples provided food that could be stored, dried, or fermented into cider, a safer alternative to water. Orchards were also powerful symbols of ownership, marking land that settlers intended to cultivate and control. Every apple tree planted became a quiet declaration of permanence, a foothold in an unfamiliar and often hostile land. Through these humble seeds, the settlers carried a piece of Europe into America, planting the foundation for a fruit that would eventually grow alongside the nation itself, shaping culture, economy, and identity in ways no one could have predicted. In colonial America, apples were far more than a simple snack. They were a cornerstone of daily survival. Families relied on them not only for food, but for cider, a fermented drink that was safer to consume than often contaminated water and packed with calories to sustain long workdays. Cider flowed in homes, taverns, and even schools, shaping routines and social life alike. Apple orchards became vital assets, providing both sustenance and economic opportunity through trade and barter. Children, workers, and settlers all depended on the fruit, while the orchards themselves acted as markers of settlement and prosperity. In every bite, every sip of cider, the apple connected people to the land, to each other, and to the rhythms of colonial life, quietly anchoring European traditions in the new and untamed world. In colonial America, apple orchards were far more than sources of food. They were instruments of law, ownership, and expansion. Planting a tree was a declaration. It marked land as claimed, cultivated, and permanently occupied, often determining who could settle and who could be displaced. Orchards were woven into colonial land laws, with settlers gaining legal rights through the labor and care invested in these trees. Beyond legality, orchards shaped communities, serving as gathering places, economic hubs, and symbols of prosperity. Each apple tree was both a practical asset and a statement of permanence, quietly asserting human dominance over the wilderness while laying the foundation for the expansion of settlements across the continent. Through these living monuments, the apple became a silent architect of American land and law, rooting culture, economy, and power into every acre it touched. Johnny Appleseed is remembered as a gentle, barefoot wanderer scattering seeds across the American frontier, a figure of innocence and folklore. But the real John Chapman was far more strategic and deliberate than the myth suggests. He planted nurseries ahead of settlers, carefully choosing locations to secure land, cultivate profitable orchards, and influence emerging communities. His devotion to religion guided his actions, yet he understood the commerce of apples, particularly for cider production, using his orchards as both spiritual and economic tools. Each tree he planted shaped settlement patterns, property claims, and local economies, quietly intertwining morality, enterprise, and expansion. Chapman's legacy is complex, part legend, part calculated expansionist, and entirely central to the story of how a humble fruit could shape the growth of a nation. As settlers pushed westward across the American frontier, apple orchards moved with them, silently marking territory and asserting ownership over newly claimed lands. These trees were more than food. They were instruments of expansion, signaling permanence and the spread of European settlement into territories long inhabited by native peoples. Forests were cleared, ecosystems altered, and indigenous communities displaced, all in the quiet shadow of growing orchards. Each apple tree represented both sustenance and domination, its roots entwined with human ambition, law, and conquest. The humble fruit, carried in pockets, seeds, and saplings, became a subtle yet powerful agent of transformation, shaping the land, the people, and the course of a nation that was still being forged. The growth of apple orchards in America was never just about fruit. It was deeply entwined with labor, trade, and the economy. Enslaved Africans, indentured servants, and later migrant workers toiled under harsh conditions to plant, tend, and harvest these orchards, fueling both local sustenance and broader commerce. Apples were commodities, traded and bartered across regions, their value tied not only to taste, but to the labor invested in every tree. Each harvest reflected a complex system of human effort, exploitation, and survival, reminding us that the simple apple carried with it stories of toil, resilience, and profit. Through these orchards, the fruit became a silent witness to the human cost of expansion, the intersection of economy and ethics, and the hands that built the backbone of early American agriculture. In the early 20th century, the Prohibition era upended the role of apples in American life, transforming a once vital source of sustenance and community into a target of regulation and destruction. Orchards that had produced cider for generations were uprooted, trees cut down, and hard cider, a staple drink for families, workers, and settlers alike, was banned. Sweet-eating apples were promoted to replace the bitter cider varieties, changing the landscape of orchards and the very purpose of cultivation. This period reshaped the fruit's identity, erasing centuries of tradition and altering the economic and cultural foundations of apple-growing communities. Apples survived, but their history was rewritten, showing how law and policy could wield power over something as simple yet significant as a fruit, leaving a legacy of loss, adaptation, and transformation that still echoes in modern orchards. As America entered the 20th century, apples became a product of industrialization, transforming from a symbol of survival and tradition into a commodity dominated by corporations. Monoculture orchards replaced the diversity of old varieties, prioritizing appearance, shelf life, and mass distribution over flavor and resilience. Large companies controlled seeds, production, and trade, shaping what Americans saw in stores and what they consumed at home. The fruit that once connected settlers to the land and to each other now reflected the priorities of profit, efficiency, and uniformity. Apples became standardized, predictable, and profitable. Yet in this process, centuries of genetic diversity, local tradition, and cultural significance were quietly diminished, leaving a fruit that was perfect on the outside, but stripped of much of its historical and ecological richness. Over time, the apple became more than sustenance. It became a powerful symbol woven into American culture, education, and identity. From the apple on a teacher's desk to the iconic apple pie representing home, comfort, and tradition, the fruit carried layers of meaning that reached far beyond taste. It appeared in art, literature, and celebrations, symbolizing knowledge, morality, and prosperity, while silently connecting generations to the land and the labor that produced it. Yet beneath this innocent image lay centuries of history, of survival, expansion, and human effort, reminding us that every apple carries stories of work, conquest, and culture, and that even the simplest fruit can reflect the complex identity of a nation. As apple orchards spread across America, their growth reshaped not only human society, but the environment itself, leaving a lasting mark on forests, ecosystems, and biodiversity. Vast tracts of land were cleared to make way for monoculture orchards, altering soil, waterways, and wildlife habitats. Native plants and trees were displaced, and the delicate balance of local ecosystems was disrupted. Yet within this transformation, orchards also created a sense of place, identity, and continuity for settlers, offering nourishment, economic opportunity, and cultural connection. The apple story is thus dual, both a tale of human ingenuity and a reminder of ecological cost, showing that even a simple fruit can wield power over landscapes, species, and the very fabric of life itself. Today, apples have become a global commodity, their journey from wild forests to supermarket shelves reflecting the power of science, commerce, and marketing. Genetic research has created disease-resistant, visually perfect varieties, while international trade ensures that apples are available year-round, crossing continents and oceans with ease. Marketing campaigns have transformed apples into icons of health, freshness, and convenience, often masking the complex history and labor behind each fruit. Despite technological advancement, the modern apple industry remains intertwined with human ambition, economic control, and environmental impact, reminding us that the fruit we bite into carries a story of centuries of innovation, trade, and the ever-shifting relationship between people and the land. Beyond its history and commerce, the apple has become a symbol of health, tradition, and Americana, celebrated in nutrition, culture, and festivals across the nation. From an apple a day, promoting wellness, to autumn harvest fairs and iconic apple pie recipes, the fruit connects generations, communities, and identities. Apples are more than food. They are cultural markers, evoking nostalgia, home, and the continuity of traditions that have been nurtured for centuries. Every bite carries echoes of survival, labor, and innovation, reminding us that the apple is not just a fruit. It is a living testament to America's past, a bridge between heritage and modern life, and a symbol of how something so simple can resonate deeply across time and society. The story of the apple is the story of America itself, a journey from wild forests to cultivated orchards, from survival and conquest to culture, commerce, and identity. Every seed planted, every tree nurtured, and every bite consumed carries the weight of history, of pioneers and settlers, of labor and trade, of law, expansion, and environmental change. The apple symbolizes both the triumphs and the costs of human ambition, a simple fruit that shaped land, communities, and culture. To understand America, one must understand the apple, not just as food, but as a living witness to centuries of growth, struggle, and transformation. It reminds us that even the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary stories, and that the legacy of the past continues to ripple through every orchard, every harvest, and every table across the nation.